Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending this session with Cliff Williams. I have Cliff Williams today. He's the Principal Advisor at People and Processes, as he gives us some context into measuring to manage or just measuring. Cliff, I pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Arturo. Thank you. Okay, yep. So let's kick it off because we don't have a huge amount of time to get through a very long topic. Okay, let's kick it off then. So for some reason, there we go. Okay, I don't know if it went quicker for you, but it took a little bit of time for me. A little bit about me. Just retired as the corporate reliability maintenance manager at ERCO and a bunch of other things that really doesn't matter. I do a lot of stuff, and I'm sure if you get the slides, you can take a look at it and figure out, okay, yes, I've been around a long time and been through a lot of industries. Okay, so the question we need to ask is, why do we measure KPIs? And one of the things that I didn't mention was that I have written a book, and it's called People Reliability Success Story. And this is the quote from the book. And it is: the purpose of measuring is to gather relevant information to enable managers to make more informed decisions and drive continuous improvement in support of corporate goals. That's really what it's all about. That's why we do the measuring. If we don't do the managing afterwards, then it's really a waste of time. And the other thing that we need to understand, and we'll talk a little bit more about, is that we could be measuring the wrong things. Are we measuring those things that will actually help us achieve our corporate goals? So that really is where we need to be focused. Okay, so the results of measuring, if we're going to measure, what are the results that we're looking for? And really, the one thing that should come out of measurement is change. Change for the better, change for what we're doing, change for the practices, change in procedures, change in knowledge, change in what we measure, and change in what are the expectations based on what we're seeing. And really, most importantly, what should be coming out of measuring is the fact that we have a change in behavior. And if we have that change in behavior, as long as we manage it and we manage it well, then that change is going to be in the right direction. Okay, so what should we measure? From the wonderful source of Wikipedia, where you get all the information from, key performance indicators, and we'll have a definition. And they are the financial and sometimes non-financial measures or metrics used to help an organization define and evaluate how successful it is, typically in terms of making progress towards its long-term organizational goals. So again, same thing as we talked about earlier in the point of measuring. These key performance indicators really need to be in the support of the long-term organizational goals. If they're not, then why are we doing them? Why are we measuring? Measuring takes effort, and then if you have actions that come from those measures, then you want them to be in the right direction. You want them to be supporting what it is that your organization is trying to achieve. So let's take a look at those words: key. And that, not just everything, you will have measures and you will have monitoring and things like that. But when you look at key performance indicators, that word key, it's, those things that will determine whether your organization, and remember that one organization's KPIs may not be the other organization's KPIs. They may be very different. They may need different managing. They probably will end up looking at different results and different goals. So it's really about what are those things that are key to your organization, and realizing that things change, markets change, competition changes, um, regulations change, all of these things. So your key performance indicators have to be dynamic. They can't be static. Otherwise, what you'll find is that what worked yesterday and what helped yesterday and what got your your goals yesterday are not getting them today. So it's not a case of one and done. And too many times we see that where people have decided that, yep, these are going to be our key performance indicators and we'll use them forevermore. And it doesn't always work and shouldn't work that way. Performance is the second word. And it's those measures that will support the achievement of the key objectives. Really, you want to measure many things, but those that are going to allow you to achieve your organizational goals and therefore are the key objectives, then they should easily be obtained. It's not, it shouldn't take sort of, you know, 3 computers and 2 computer programs and everything else to try and find out what these are. These performance measurements should be readily accessible to everyone. They should be published. They should be talked about. They should, they should be the topics of conversation on the monthly meeting or whatever. But it's not every performance measure. It's those that are supporting the key objectives. And remember that they are indicators. What's really important is that when you look at these numbers and you look at the changes and you look at the trends and you look at how things are progressing, they're indicating the direction in which you're going. They're indicating what is happening. But the real value in these numbers is if you get to the point where you have the understanding of the why. So why have your key performance indicators sort of increased or decreased or whatever? It's really what it's all about, and all of these, the whole point of measuring is really around why. And if you can get to figure out why you're meeting targets, and even if you can get to figure out why you're not meeting targets, then really those things are the ones that you need to be doing something about. So the whole point and the title of this presentation is, if you're not going to manage, if you're not going to do something with what you're getting, what you're measuring, and what you're seeing, if you don't do anything and you don't improve it or you don't change it, whatever, then it's a waste of time and you're just measuring. And measuring really by itself doesn't get you anywhere. You really need to have it so that what you're measuring is going to be used to drive change, to improve, to meet the organizational goals. And that's really the most important part. And if you get nothing else out of today's session, get that out of the session, is that if you have measurements, if you have these key performance indicators, what are you using them for? And if you're not using them, then why are you measuring them? Handing in a report at the end of the month may be a kind of necessary thing, but really it's not value added. Okay, so how do we decide on what KPIs we should be measuring? Well, if it starts with the company's strategic goals, and we've said that's really where it should start. So if you have the strategic company goals, so everyone understands what it is the company's trying to achieve, then that's good. And then you go to critical success factors. So this will become maybe for individual plants. So this is the role that each individual plant is going to play in achieving the company's strategic goals. If it's just one site, then it could be that, okay, this is where the departmental goals are decided upon. But when I say decided upon, it's developed in collaboration with all of the departments, so that everybody understands how they support the company's strategic goals. And then the key performance indicators are those day-to-day things that we're doing, or the things that, the measures that we can have for costs or whatever, availability and all of those types of measures. But again, they need to be cascading. If we take the company goals, we cascade those and to say, okay, this is how the different plants are supposed to support that. And then we look at this and cascade it down and we say, okay, this is how the different areas, the different departments are supposed to help achieve and support those above. And then hopefully you can easily see that if we achieve our, we're hitting our targets for the key performance indicators, then we achieve the key success factors or the critical success factors. And if we achieve those, then we achieve the company goals, because that's what it's all about. It really doesn't matter if with the key performance indicators, if they're not the ones that support the company objectives, then they're kind of wasted time. And it's no good being the best little maintenance department in the world if your company's really not doing well, because of, what you're measuring is not supporting what they need to achieve. So quick, the National Cruise Ship Orchestra of the Year went to this bunch of men, and they won this award because they played really good music. And this was in 1911, and so they won the award, and they were given the prize of going out on the new, more improved, wonderful liner that was being launched the next year. And that was HMS Titanic. And so the fact that they were the best orchestra in the world really didn't matter, because the ship was sinking. And if you're looking for the orchestra, there they are there. They're on the rowboat. They've got away. So it's no good being the best orchestra in the world if your ship is sinking. So you have to be aware of that. Okay, so let's take a little look at some commonly used and very, very widespread measures that people use, and sort of answer how things can go wrong. Okay, so for MTBF, which is, mean time between failures, I shouldn't jump there. Mean time between failures, which is found by dividing the total hours in the time period by the number of failures. And okay, an example is a paper mill had an area where there were 15 pumps. And since the mill had started up 5 years ago, they'd experienced 6 failures. So the MTBF was 15 pumps times 5 years times 52 weeks divided by 6 ends up being 66 weeks. So that kind of measurement tells you that the mean time between for the pumps was 66 weeks. But what does it really tell you? Does it tell you can expect 66 weeks? Take a look further. If we do further analysis of the failures, what we find is that in the first 6 months, there were 4 failures due to the lack of training of lube techs. They didn't have a lube tech going around, so they trained a lube tech. And since then, been no further failures. And month 18 and month 19, there was 1 failure each month. And strangely enough, it was in the same location. And what it turned out was that production had made changes to the processes that resulted in the existing pump not being fit for service, not being fit for that particular requirement. And so it couldn't carry the load. So what they did, they changed the pump out, changed to a bigger pumps, and found out that again there were no further failures. So in this example of MTBF, we see that we have an MTBF of 66 weeks, which kind of says that the average times that these pumps last 66 weeks. But the reality is that 10 of the pumps have never failed. And no pump has failed in the last 224 weeks. So what are we really using MTBF for? And is it worthwhile using if we don't have the understanding of the why behind the process. So if you're going to use something like MTBF, great care must be taken that it's used as a relative measure. It's things are getting better, things are getting worse. But MTBF is a very lagging indicator. And so it tells you what's been and did it get any better? And it's not an absolute. And I'm not completely against MTBF, but MTBF, if it's going to be effective, it needs to be done at failure mode level. And then you would have a lot more information and you would know where to focus and you know where the issues are and you know then what solutions you can provide. So anything that is a mean time or it ends up being an average. And unless you are specific around what you're talking and what you're measuring, then it becomes an average and doesn't give you a lot of information to work on. Another favorite one is schedule compliance. And so schedule compliance is number of scheduled work orders completed, number of work orders scheduled. And so we got 60 completed out of 100, so 60%. This is very often used as a measure for the planning and scheduling department. And but the question you got to ask is who's responsible for the missing 40%? You know, that's where the value is. It's not where the value is not knowing that you know, only 60% were complete. The value is in understanding is what happened to the missing 40%. Who is responsible for that? And very often it's not the maintenance department, and it's certainly not the planning and scheduling department. It could be procurement, operations, production scheduling, whatever. But if you do have really good schedule compliance, then it's a good indication that you have a good culture in the organization and that people are collaborating. So again, whatever it is you're going to use, be sure that you're using it for the right thing, and make sure that it's telling you what you need it to know. Overall equipment effectiveness, OEE, availability and rate times quality. But again, who's responsible for the performance and the measures? That's an effective measure if you have granularity of, you know, in the details around availability and rate and quality. But again, just like MTBF, it's a lagging indicator and really not very lagging, and without granularity, not much use. You can have something like this where for availability, you have 3 sections of losses so that you can look at what you need to do about it. And it's the same with performance and the same with quality. If you have a more granularity, then you have a much better chance of making improvements and doing what you need to do to get to the point. Again, if you're going to measure and you're going to go to the trouble of providing OEE, then it should be telling you something so that you can manage the process. Otherwise, it's why are we measuring? So again, how do we decide company strategic goals, success factors, and key performance indicators? These should be cascading. And then when you get these results, these should be showing you that they're actually impacting and influencing and working on those things. Okay, so how to get it better? Okay, it's a high-profile beverage company. Won't mention any names, but really, its biggest strategic objective is to protect the brand name. The brand name, it was one of the most valuable brand names in the world. And so that really was a key strategic objective for the organization. It turned out the #1 annual customer complaint was a failing outer wrap. And this was coming back from the stores and from the public. And so, that was a critical success factor. And the worst part of this is it was outside of the organization we're finding this. And that's really what you don't want, because it was really affecting the brand name and the reputation. So coming out of that, it was looked at and it was analyzed, and it was found that there was one plant in particular that had a much higher rate of failures. So the plant was bluntly told it had to stop. So for the maintenance KPIs, because now they had to do something, it was going to support the goals, was that the functional failures of the outer wrap machine. So they would look at any breakdowns there, make sure they were doing the PMs and everything like that. And that became their KPI, because they had to make sure that there weren't functional failures of the outer wrap machine. A large steel company wanted to be employee of choice, but they had trouble retaining people. And people used to get hurt. Yeah, and at most of the steel mills, they were subject to fines for safety violations. And as I said, people were getting hurt. So that critical success factor really, really was one that was impacting the employee of choice. So the maintenance KPI was the number of JSIs completed, so that they would make sure that every job that was done had a JSA, job safety analysis, completed. So what type of KPIs do we want? Do we want them sometimes tried until proven ineffective, or stupid ones? Or do we want strategic, telling, applicable, and replaceable, renewable, reviewable, that they are dynamic? The STAR KPIs that we want. And that's really what you're looking at, is, are they strategic? Are they telling you what you need to know? Are they applicable to your organization and to your situation? And then are you monitoring them, making sure that they're valid and they are the right ones to go forward, and everything like that? So there is one truism about KPIs, in that KPIs, the goals, whatever it is, they will absolutely, definitely drive behavior. Now, your challenge is to make sure it's the one that you want. And that's why it's important to have the correct KPIs, to have a good understanding of what it is you're trying to achieve, have a good understanding of how you can achieve it, and have a good understanding of what behaviors and what culture you want that's going to get you there. So an instance where this really didn't work was at a paper mill. It was decided that the overtime costs were going to be used as a KPI. And that's fine. Hopefully it supported some strategic goals around cost. And in the maintenance department, it was noted that the truck repair area was the worst offender. It had an average of about 30%, as opposed to 10% for the rest of the maintenance organization. Sorry. What was found was, when they looked at this, the truck repair department actually consisted of two people, and these two people were working day shift. And so the manager thought, okay, this sounds. He was a new manager, new to the job, and said, okay, this is pretty easy one to try and reduce, in that, okay, we'll when we look at the overtime, it's call-ins, and it's because we only have coverage from two people during the day shift. And so he said, okay, what we're going to do, he went and told the guy, said, one of you will be working the afternoon shift, and that will cut down on the call-ins, and so that will cut down on the overtime. And seemed like a sensible idea to him. After 3 months, the overtime came down, and it was pretty good getting there. It was declared a success. But after the fourth month, the mill was shut down for 10 hours on 2 occasions due to the fact there were no trucks available to load conveyors that fed the paper machine. Downtime at the mill costed $200 a day, totaling around, $250,000, more than 4 times the wages of a truck mechanic. And when he went and asked the truck mechanics what was happening and why they didn't have any trucks available, they kind of took him to the shop, and he could see that there were a whole bunch of trucks sitting around that were halfway through repair. And he said, well, why are they halfway through repair? You really, we need to get these things done. And the truck mechanic said, well, all of these things take 2 men to do. It's a 2-man job. It can't be done safely by 1 person. So we just put them to this, aside, and work at the ones that we can do by ourselves. And the manager got kind of upset and said, well, why didn't you tell me that and everything? And the 2 mechanics said very simply, he said, well, you just came down and you had decided what you were going to do, and you told us what you were going to do, and you put us on. You never asked us, what we thought of the idea, and you never asked us. So we followed what you wanted, and we did what you wanted. And this is the result. So it drove that behavior of people, the KPI drove the behavior of people really not taking an interest, not being involved. And that really wasn't what the manager wanted, but it was what he got. So in wrap up is there's no cookie cutter approach to measurements. They should always be driven by the corporate strategy and governed by the culture within the organization. And this should result in the behavior and the results that you need. And so good luck with your efforts. This is can be reached on all of these, and I'm sure you'll get copies of the slideshow, so that'll be fine. And we just got a few minutes now for questions, if there happens to be any.
Cliff, excellent session. Thank you very much. Let's take some time, a couple minutes to answer some Q&As. Let's see here. You can always reach out to Cliff directly through the platform or through the email information that Cliff has provided in the slide, if you'd rather reach to him directly.
Yep. There we go. That's the information there if you need it. There's not any questions.
Well, there might not be. If there's no questions, Cliff, thanks a lot for the excellent session. Learned a lot about the KPIs and measuring to manage, within this.
Okay.
Awesome. And again, I thank everyone for attending, and we'll see you on the next show.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Have a good rest of the day. Thank you, Arturo.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cliff.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.